The NFL stands for not for long.
Set, Sharga and Armstead. Roll out, Walker still running out. Looks to the left, wide open, Thompson touchdown. Colin Thompson with the touchdown. There was nobody within 20 yards of him.
What a catch off the bobble. Colin Thompson scoops it up.
Lofting corner, the end zone. It is caught for the touchdown. The first NFL touch for Colin Thompson is a score.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Colin Thompson Show, presented by Not For Long Media and our friends over at BoironUSA.com. Arnicare, that is. I needed some of their products this weekend. It was a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. I had a bunch of hot dogs, sausage, burgers, and they have natural homeopathic medicine to help you. Not the hard stuff you're going to get, which you got a million different ingredients on the back of the box. This is stuff that's made from a flower. And if you go to their website, which is awesome and so interactive, BoironUSA.com, medicines, new products, allergy, kid and baby, cough, cold, flu, digestive, medicine kits, pain relief, skin care, stress and sleep, women's wellness. They have books on it. They have bundled package. The digestive stuff for this weekend, though, is what was needed. Some people have an overactive bladder, maybe some constipation with a headache, bloating, pressure, discomfort. Boiron, Arnicare, they have it all. Check them out. BoironUSA.com. Again, I hope everyone had an amazing Memorial Day weekend. Before we get to our interview and what's ahead here on the Colin Thompson Show, last week we had Ryan Mannion on from the Travis Mannion Foundation. Ryan Mannion's brother was lost in the line of duty. They're from Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Go back and listen to that episode if you need a little something to remind yourself what Memorial Day is all about, and that's honoring the people that made the ultimate sacrifice for our country, their family, their friends, the people that were affected by their passing, right? It's not just for the family. It goes into the community. We talk about the community of Doylestown that, Ryan and I live in, and talk about Naval Academy, talk about our amazing country and all the wonderful things that our service members do. Please, if you can give to the Travis Mannion Foundation, please do. If not, go back, listen to the episode and learn a little bit more about it, and check out Ryan's podcast as well. I listened to that. A fantastic episode with her and her father, who served in the military as well. And they talked about, finding out, her brother and her father's son was no longer with us, fighting overseas. And it's just remarkable, the impact of that foundation, what it's done, and living at really the Naval Academy here in Annapolis, Maryland, right next to the football field where the Blue Angels fly over and the F-18s fly over before every game. And you get to see up close and personal. You almost take it for granted. You're like, oh, there's a service member just walking right past you. It's very, very normal. And it's a town that takes great pride in that. I love living here because it's both sides, right? You have the Naval Academy, and then we have a pride parade and all the different wonderful things that come with that this weekend. As most know, my brother's gay and very supportive of gay marriage and gay people in general and their happiness, and really not a lot of hate in my heart with anything. So I digress. It's amazing foundation in the Travis Mannion Foundation. Check that podcast out of last week. And again, special thanks to Ryan Mannion for coming on this week. An old friend, Elaine Pasqua, is coming on. Elaine is an amazing person. Another person that lives in Doylestown. She was a guest speaker when I was with the New York Giants. And, this little lady comes walking in. Every day the Giants were so first class. They had someone come in and introduce themselves and talk about financial literacy, or talk about, a police officer maybe from New York City, how to get yourself in and out of trouble in New York and where to stay away from them, and who to call if you get in trouble, or different things, right? And here comes Elaine walking in. Okay, what's this about? You have no idea, but literally for almost 3 decades, she's been traveling the country, speaking to all kinds of audiences, corporations, associations, NFL, NBA, MLB, colleges and universities, including military service members. Again, happy Memorial Day weekend, start of summer, yes, but also thank you to those that made the ultimate sacrifice. And she has multiple programs culture of respect, collaboration through open communication, making people perform at a higher level. She talked to us about everything from safe sex to travel to how you interact with your spouse. I mean, you name it. It was like a first-class thing that a lot of guys didn't really know or weren't really maybe prepared for in a way, but it was really delivered in a first-class manner. Elaine is a first-class individual, works her ass off, and is the perfect person to speak to any team because she covers a lot of bases. Covers a lot of bases. This was 8 years ago at this point. I'm getting old in the NFL world, and Elaine came in and did an amazing job speaking to our team with the Giants and had major impact on the players. And just as a tremendous speaker. So I hope you enjoyed the podcast. But of course, before we get to the podcast, I have to give a few thoughts on this past weekend. So we traveled down to the women's Final Four on Friday. Florida was in the Final Four. My wife played at Florida. I had that clip that gained some traction. I had more people come up to me about that clip than any other clip in my entire life. It was hysterical. Lacrosse is definitely not my wheelhouse, but I consider myself know enough about it. Watching my wife play for 8 years, or for the last 8 years, either watch my wife play or watch teams play through her friends coaching on TV. When you live in Maryland, you get into it. It's the main show down here. Lacrosse is everything: high school, college, professional, you name it. I train with a bunch of pro guys. It's a massive sport down here. It is the sport. Don't let anybody fool you. And I consider myself as a fan qualified because I ask a lot of questions about it. I want to know what people's thoughts are. So the NCAA and college lacrosse, men's and women's, they dropped the ball again this weekend. I was down in Florida. I was down in Cary, North Carolina, and I'm going to redo this part here because this is key, and I want to make sure I hit the nail on the head here. The NCAA and the folks in men's and women's lacrosse responsible for this past weekend in the Final Four dropped the ball again. First and foremost, what you need to do is find a way to get the men's and the women's Final Four in the same location. You want to grow the game? Get 8 fan bases together. You want to grow the game? Get all of the folks that support lacrosse all in one location. It's a smaller niche sport. It's really mid-Atlantic, Northeast. And that's even stretching it. So at the end of the day, get everyone together in the same location. The men's play on Saturday and on Monday. The women's play on Friday and Sunday. You have all these fan bases. Most people are either related amongst the fan bases. They're either the same fan base because the same teams are in, for the most part, sometimes in the Final Four for both men's and women's. You get all of the youth programs, AAU, high school, all the little boys and girls that look up to these people all in one location. And it's all about viewership. So I know you want to play in Cary, North Carolina, which is all the way down there, 5-hour drive from the Annapolis, Baltimore area. And that's where most of lacrosse is. It's kind of far. What if you're in Long Island? You got to drive all the way down there or spend a lot of money and fly? You're going to stay home and watch on TV. It's going to separate the fan bases. And you're trying to get more eyeballs on the game, get more people in the seats. When you turn on a UFL game or you turn on another sport that's not as popular as one of these major 4 and there's no one in the crowd, you usually turn it off or aren't really that interested. The more people, the more butts in the seats, the more TV viewership's better. So have them all together, alternate the games, and get it in a great city, not in the middle of nowhere where you can't go to dinner after, you can't interact with friends, or your friends don't even live in the area because everyone on Memorial Day weekend is on vacation somewhere in the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. So put it in Philly, put it in Baltimore. They're centrally located between the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast, and they're easy to get in and out of. Both right off 95, both great airports to get in and out of. Make it simple, make it easy. Stop separating people. Stop playing games at noon. And if you're going to do that, it might as well have everybody together so they can enjoy it together in the communities instead of being spread out and people end up watching at home on TV and end up not really watching because they're going on vacation anyways because there's no interest in going to the games when everyone's separated and there's no one in the crowd. So the NCAA, they dropped the ball again this weekend. I don't know who's responsible for it, but it continues to happen in that sport. And being down here in Maryland, I'm just getting annoyed with everyone complaining. I don't blame them because lacrosse just keeps stubbing their toe. I digress. Everything we do here, again, Fudge Kitchen, fudgekitchens.com. They ship fudge. They ship sweet treats across the country. Check them out. Taste of the Jersey Shore, the unofficial start to the summer, Memorial Day weekend. Get down there, get your fudge, get your saltwater taffy, get your sweet treats from me. The chocolate covered pretzels, a little bit of salt on them, unreal, to die for. Check them out. The original Fudge Kitchen, fudgekitchens.com. They ship fudge. They ship sweet treats around the country right to your door, or send it to somebody for a birthday gift or, a thank you gift, which I've done a ton of because, hey, what a great, great gift there is to give away to people instead of just, your normal thing. Hey, shout out to the bar of the week this week on the Colin Thompson Show, brought to you by the Fudge Kitchen, fudgekitchens.com. Teets, Teets, Teets in beautiful Raleigh, North Carolina, right on the main drag there. What a great little time we had down there in Cary, North Carolina, and we swung over to Raleigh downtown at night to have a couple libations, if you will, and check them out. What a great little spot. Awesome spot if you're in Raleigh looking to watch games. Huge TVs. There's a big courtyard outside. People are playing beer pong and cornhole, and there's places to sit outside right on the main drag. Didn't get a food. Looks like they got buckets of beer, and there's a whole seating area and bar in the back that's got a different vibe than kind of the sports bar, indoor, outdoor bar up front. So Teets, bar of the week this week on the Colin Thompson Show. A really cool place to hang out if you're in the Raleigh area. Shout out to Rob Aldave and his boys for hooking me up for a great place to go to, grab some beers with all these Florida Women's Lacrosse folks that were looking to, get a couple cold ones after a hot day in Raleigh, North Carolina. So check it out, Teets in Raleigh, North Carolina, as the bar of the week this week on the Colin Thompson Show. All right, guys, I'm going to send over Elaine. I hope you guys enjoy. She's killer. A great message, a great leader, a great speaker, and I'm really fortunate to play for the New York Giants and get to meet Elaine, someone that lived right around the corner where I grew up. So enjoy the episode. All right, guys, we have an old friend of mine. Not old. You're not old. I'm old. I feel old at 30. NFL, I might as well be H and Elaine. Elaine Pasqua joining us. What an unbelievable story and journey and just conversation you guys are going to be in for the next 20, 30, 40 minutes here with Elaine. Elaine, how are you doing today?
I'm great. It's so good to see you, Colin.
Oh, man, I wish this is a mistake. When we're friends, you don't hit press record. We talked about so much stuff. We're going to talk a little NIL today and how it affected Elaine's business as a public speaker and a speaker in college and the impact you have on college athletics. Elaine and I met when I was with the New York Giants. She spoke at University of Florida 2010. I was a freshman there in 2012, mister. You spoke to freshmen at Temple University. I was never a freshman at Temple University. I came in as a junior, as a transfer. But I had the pleasure of working with you speaking to our group with the New York Giants, our rookie class.
Yes.
Bunch of characters in that group. Evan Ingram, most notable, player-wise, I would say. And long story short, you spoke to our rookie class. The Giants were first class with the people that came and spoke to us. Kearney, defensive end for a long time, defensive end who lost had some financial troubles. He spoke to us. They had Broadway actors come act out different scenarios of situations you could be in while you're out in the city or out in the city of New Jersey. And if you have a gun in Jersey, it's this law. I was blown away. I remember coming home being like, this is crazy. And then you came in the door and you were fantastic. Just about overall health, your story. I don't even know where to go, where to tee you up and say, I'm just really unprofessional. I should be like, so tell me about your life, but really, what?
Well, we have to throw in one really important fact too.
Okay.
Because when we met that day, we realized that you grew up very close to where I live. I shop in your mother's stores. I'm a big fan of her stores. You went to CB East High School too, correct?
I went to Archbishop Wood, but I would have went to East.
But you would have gone to East, right?
I went to. You're right near Camp Curiosity.
Exactly.
That's where I grew up, right there at those fields. I played football there at night, and I grew up at camp there during the day.
Wow. Yeah. So we had this Bucks County, Doylestown area bond. Yes, that really did.
But I think your journey about public speaking, but really most importantly, B, your journey through life is what you share, and you share it with professional athletes, these big macho men who have all these different guest speakers over the years and motivation. And here you come in, you got these test tubes and you got all these cups and you're okay, here we go. What's this today? And you were first class. So thank you. When did you decide to get into the speaking world and kind of what drove you to do it?
Well, life happens while you make other plans. And in 1989, we found out my stepdad, who we thought had cancer, was infected with HIV and AIDS. And he unknowingly contracted it from a medical product, and then he passed it on to my mom unknowingly. So we lost him in 1990, and we lost my mom in 1995. And because we were instructed to keep it a secret, It really brought forward the challenges that people have when stigma can come into their life and they're not allowed to openly share. Nobody should have to be ashamed of why they're dying, and they should be able to share it openly. So I got my mom's permission about a week before she died. And I said to her, can I share your story and tell the truth? Because if we don't, we're not going to teach anybody about the prejudices against those with HIV and AIDS. And she couldn't speak, but she nodded her head in agreement. And so she gave me her permission. So within weeks after her death, I called the local health department. They started bringing me into schools. I used to be a dental hygienist, so then I started working with health professionals. And then a year into that, I just said, I'd like to work with a college. So I called a college here in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Dean of students loved the program, and he mentored me and he got me on the national circuit. And from there, after about 2 years, I started to hear all the stories of students who were ruining their lives because of that one night, the one inconsequential decision, or a repetitive pattern of partying. And so I broadened my areas of expertise to address high-risk drinking, sexual assault, sexual health. I also address social media, drug abuse, branding, all these different things, and communication now. And then a few years into that, it's just my whole career is based on just saying, I want to do this, and I do this. So that's a note for all of you. Jump in, never be afraid. So I called the New York Giants, and I talked to them 3 years in a row, and the first year, my contact at that time was very nice, very polite. Nothing happened. Second year, it's like, okay, yeah, we'll take a look. Nothing happened. Third year, I said, I'll come in for free. I thought people were like, are you nuts? And so what people don't realize is that player development budgets for the NFL teams is quite small. And
which is crazy because you have an investment in multi-million-dollar investment. And even a guy like myself, and sorry to cut you off, but I think it's important.
No, it's a good point.
From my end, how much does it take to feed me every day? Just undrafted player that signed for $4,500. So there's $4,500 just in clothing and stuff a day. It's probably $1,000 a day, maybe a little less, whatever. Say $500 a day, every day. Like, you're investing. So if you go all in on everything, you have to in the NFL. That's the teams who win, at least in my opinion. But continue. I'm sorry.
Well, no, and I'll add on that too. What teams don't understand is it's not just about winning, but it's about your reputation and the players and how they reflect your franchise or your club or your city, the role models that they are for young kids and aspiring athletes. And so all of this is an investment, because when the behavior goes bad for a player, and the media loves to have a heyday, when they love to just, put that out there, so-and-so did this, and they're not showing all the people that are going into the soup kitchen or in the hospitals and doing the good things. And so it is an investment, because what I focus on is being remembered for your stellar performance on the field and not your indiscretions off. So people again saying, you work for the Giants for free? And I said, yeah, but that picture of me with my arm around Odell Beckham is worth $1 million. And so we have to be willing to see the big picture and look long-term and make smaller sacrifices along the way to get where we want to go. Because then that relationship with the Giants was cemented. I worked with them for 9 years. Within 6 months of getting to know the team psychologist and becoming good friends with her, I asked for and it doesn't hurt for the ask. And so I asked if she had a contact at the NFL league office itself. And they gave me the name of the person. I ended up talking to this woman. I ended up sending my proposal of what I do. I didn't hear from them for 3 weeks. And then I'm sitting in front of my computer one afternoon, and all of a sudden the email drops in, and I'm like, oh, and I'm going, I don't want to open it. I don't want to open it.
Isn't that great? That's the best.
I know, because you're always setting yourself up for reject or failure. And I opened up the email and like, Elaine, please come into New York and meet with us. We really like this program. So I started working for the league. In fact, I did training for them for all the teams the year that they had the labor lockout. And then from there, they started bringing me to some of their conferences. And I ended up working with 7 other teams. And then from there went on to working with the NBA and doing their G League, or it was the D League at the time. So I worked for them for 2 years in a row. And then I've been working for Major League Baseball teams. More recently, I've been with the Texas Rangers now for 6 years. I just worked for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and I've worked for about 4 other Major League Baseball teams. And I've worked for the most notable Division I football programs because I created a niche for working with collegiate athletes. So being with Nick Saban 5 times is an amazing honor, and working for, again, a lot of the notable D1 programs, D2, D3 athletic programs as well. So it's been an amazing journey.
I could just hear Saban be like, "Listen, Elaine, I think this is a great talk right here. Guys, listen up. This is serious shit." I could just hear him. I could only assume he was just awesome.
Colin, here's what happens with Coach Saban. So I've actually worked with coaching associations and been keynote speakers for them, and tell them that, as a coach, you're mentoring people and you're creating, the future of us, whatever, you're teaching them life skills as well. Certain coaches don't appreciate it. And you can tell by the culture that a coach sets and the values that they have regarding behaviors outside of the competitive arena as soon as you walk in the room. And you can feel the level of respect, or you can feel the level of disrespect. And so with Coach Saban, the programs never start until he walks in the room. He usually is not there as soon as, when everybody else is seated, but he comes in. And what I love about him, he doesn't sit in the front row and he doesn't sit in the back row. He sits in the middle with the team. And I'm very impressed by that. And a lot of times he'll come in and he'll have his reading glasses and he has paperwork with him and he's working on things. And of course, I understand that because he's busy. Mm-hmm. But then partway through the program, the glasses come off. He puts everything down and he's zeroing in on you. And you're sitting there going, "Oh my God, Nick Saban is listening to me." It's amazing. But it's been an incredible experience. And he's a very, very nice man.
All right, so Saban, what a character. So many different things to talk about. I don't want to go too down the rabbit holes of the teams you play with, because that's not really the story. But there's been things that have happened in your life that have had major impact on others, and you're willing to share them. I think that's extremely noble. And it's a gift that keeps on giving, because it doesn't just give to that player. It gives to their kids. It gives to the teams they coach. It gives to the communities they live in, their wives, their families, their significant others, whoever that may be. So, A, thank you. And B, can you explain the stories that resonate with the players the most and moves them the most to where you're like, okay, I have them now. Now I can talk about the real stuff.
Well, you've been I don't want to turn it back on you. Were there any that you remember? I mean, it's been years since you saw me. I mean, one of the things that I feel in my work with sexual violence.
Yes. That's the one. That's the one where I was trying to bring it up without saying, "Hey, tell me this," because the impact alone on that is just really opened my eyes to everything. I ask my wife certain questions now that it has. So,
I believe that my approach to sexual assault awareness prevention is not to attack the men. I'm very, very careful of that, because a lot of times, and I've seen other presenters do this, where they start, coming down on the men. And studies show that 90 to 94% of the men are upstanding and have the integrity to do the right thing. So 6 to 10% are sexual offenders. And so you want to invite the people that are upstanding to become part of the solution. But in order to have them become part of the solution, they need to understand the impact that sexual violence can have on the survivors. They can be male and female. And so I share personal stories. I've had so many people that have reached out to me sharing their stories after they see me speak. And I share a lot of my stories. I was sexually assaulted on an elevator in Rome, not rape, but sexually assaulted. There's a difference between the two. But to this day, and this was a number of years ago that it happened to me, I cringe every time I step on an elevator when a man steps on with me, because I now know how vulnerable I am because I went through that experience. And so I want people in the audience to have that same level of empathy, to be able to put themselves in somebody's shoes, because when they do that, then they can become involved in bystander intervention and helping to prevent it, or calling people out on their sexist behavior or sexist language, or, there's certain personality traits that we can look for that will indicate that a person might potentially be a sexual offender. And so I bring all that up. But storytelling, we've learned this through my training with National Speakers Association, is that people don't necessarily remember facts when you speak to them, but they remember how they felt when they left the room. And the way to do that is to get to their heart through storytelling. So every important point that I want to make, I bring stories into it. So
That's
it
awesome.
will impact people.
It's a moving piece. Some of your favorite memories from going on the road here, working with these teams, and the impact it's had on players. Some of the things you've heard from players back to you, or the communication you have with certain staff members, because most guys are big softies in the NFL and college football, and they just want to talk, and they're just like normal people, right? Everyone just sees us hard out of a shell. That's what you do for a living. It's what you do for a passion in college and a free education. But it's not who you are. Some of the cool interactions you've had, maybe post talking to a team.
It's first I just want to back up on your word using the softies in the NFL. Because, no, and I love it, because when you watch an NFL game, these guys, and you even look at the pictures, and they got these poses, and they're looking like these hard asses and whatever. And I call them the teddy bears of sports, because I've fallen in love with all these guys. They're wonderful, and they're fun, and they're working hard, and their lives are way more challenging than anybody realizes. I had a football player on a college level sit down with me after for about 15, 20 minutes and ask me how he could be more supportive of his girlfriend, who is a survivor of sexual violence, and what can I do to help her? And I love when people trust me and come to me with these really personal questions. I've had an NFL player, I won't mention names, who pulled me out in the hall during the rookie training, and just came up to the city that he was working in and said, "How do I not cheat on my girlfriend?" And so here you are, giving them certain tips and things that they can do. There was another player who I love and become friends with. He played for the Giants a number of years ago, but he got injured in camp, came back the following year, and was cut the day before. And he had a very challenging childhood. Grew up in the back of a van with his mentally ill mother and brother, washing up at fountains. They had a really, really hard childhood, and learning about his story, and his father, who was abusive to his mother. There's so much that's going on in these young men's lives that people don't understand. And then watching him go on, to finishing up his getting a master's degree, getting a doctoral degree at the same time, and now working in mental health. It's just so inspiring to see some of these people's lives as they move forward. And I have gratitude for those that I've been able to, keep in touch with. So
there's some amazing men in that league. There's some amazing people in this world. I say football in the locker room is a microcosm of society, but it's really not, because and I don't want to say it's better, but in society, we're not able to have conversations and from vulnerable states and understand everybody. It's a lot of preconceived notions. And then you go talk to someone with an edge because of what they're wearing or a flag they're flying or whatever it is, because you think them based off one thing. We see that in politics. We see it in a lot of scenarios, right? So the thing about football is, like, you have to let down your guard if you want to be good. You have to invite your teammates in. The guys that don't, they regret it for the most part, because if they're with a team for a couple of years, maybe the first 1 or 2 years, and I've experienced with guys like this, some of my best friends in football were the hardest shelled individuals that it took 2-3 years to break them open.
Wow.
And I know they have regret from that, because where they're from, what they've dealt with, right? Like, that's another thing people don't understand is what these guys have done to get to the NFL is a triumph. What I've done to get to the NFL is impressive, but it's not a triumph. I grew up in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. I played for every sport I'd ever want in the world. I'd never missed a meal. I had 5 meals a day. Now my parents worked their ass off and deserved it, and their parents had nothing, right? And I'm very blessed. But my point is, like, some of my best friends in this world have zero, and we make a lot of excuses for people that come from nothing, because I know a lot of guys that come from nothing that are great men. And
Well, they have a
worked with
certain
lot of them.
appreciation. You know, and I remember sitting, and again, I'm not going to name names, but because I don't like to do that, but sitting with an athletic staff at a university, and they were sharing some of the stories of their athletes. And we watch these games. It's easy for people to criticize, and they don't know what's going on in their lives.
No.
And they shared one story about one player who was growing up in abject poverty, one bed for 6 kids. And they rotated every night. One person had the bed and the other people slept on the floor. And we just don't know what's going on, or the drama that happens in their lives currently, just because maybe they made a bad choice or something like that. And, you know, when you talked about being closed, I've been doing a lot of programming now on inclusion. And a lot of it has to build a more inclusive team or inclusive company or business. You have to be willing to talk to one another and understand that we all come from different backgrounds and different perspectives, and how we make our decisions moving forward is predicated on the life lessons that we learn, the examples that our parents use, the people that we grew up with, and our perspectives are constantly changing. And so we need to be open. We need to listen to people with an open mind and an open heart, because that's when we get a greater understanding. And when we get that, we can be more collaborative and work together.
No question. There's so much to unpack there. And there's so many different directions to go. I think you brought up a really interesting topic before we got on air, because I didn't think we were going to talk about this today. I'm like, you know what? With Elaine, we're definitely not talking NIL, because everybody's like, it's the big topic, right? And everybody sees from the outside, it's ruining college football. I'll debate it's not. I'll debate it's not ruining college basketball from the surface level, because guys, we're still watching. We're watching the girls' game. We're watching the guys' game. We're watching football. It still looks the same. The product still looks the same. It's not when the quality drops, in my opinion, then people will really expect change. But the quality of the game has not changed. So I say to Elaine, I say, hey, talking about anything else? She's like, Elaine, it's really affected my business. And I'm like, what? How? Because
my business.
It's just crazy, because it's all about money, right? We get that before, and then they would give enough for player development, right? And enough would be, these big universities is a lot of money, more than the NFL probably. So I digress. Why is NIL hurt?
I'm going to bring 2 points of NIL, personal, and then I'll bring in another point as well. And Nick Saban's been speaking about this lately too.
Very much so.
My own personal aspect or effect from NIL is that it basically destroyed my business, and people are not looking to bring in my topics right now. And sometimes you have that, the topic du jour, but my topic has always been the topic du jour, because college students are always going to drink, they're always going to hook up, have misunderstandings with consent, and all that happens. But with NIL right now, people that are working in collegiate athletics are struggling, because the rules keep changing. There's a lot to learn. The students are now hyper-focused on social media. And I worry about that, because they're so focused on that and they're going for the short-term gain of money. But what's going to happen career-wise, if you're getting maybe $25,000, I've heard of someone that got $300,000 for something. I'm hearing all these stories from other students, but what will that do for their goals and their aspirations if they're getting so caught up in the immediate and not thinking long-term? For my own situation, right now, mental health issues are huge too. And I have been presenting a program on resilience, but they're really focused on NIL and mental health. And so that has sort of pushed my topics to the wayside. In terms of the broader picture, Nick Saban has talked about this, and other coaches are frustrated by it because they now have the transfer portal. So you build you have these scouts going out to these high schools, and you've got them even looking at some other college teams.
Mm-hmm.
And now you can buy someone from another team. So you can have an incredible player for Alabama, but maybe LSU or someone else will come and say, well, we'll give you this much to pay. How can you build a team when people are constantly moving around for money? How can a coach get that team cemented? Because it takes a lot to get a team to work together. And that's one of the first questions I ask when I work with any athletic program, whether it's D3, whether it's women's sports, men's sports. Do you have a young team or do you have an old team? Because that makes a difference. And you've got that years of experience. How can you build those years of experience if people are moving around for the money?
That's a great point. Who are your leaders? Who are the people running the show from a coach's perspective? But it's your players that run the shows. Like, don't anybody fool you.
It is now. It is now. It really is. And it's taken a lot of the control away from the coaches. I mean, I understand NIL and I see how hard these athletes work. But it's a difficult thing. It really is.
There has to be another way. Everybody I've talked to has a little bit of idea, but they're still not sure of it at the end of it. The NCAA dropped the ball. There should be a salary cap. There should be a cap. There should be a number. There should be an allotment that guys are given based off performance. Like, I was number one tight end in the country. I barely played at Florida, had a bunch of injuries. I would have probably got $1 million to go there. Think about that. I didn't even play. I would have got $1 million, not even to perform on that number. Where the NFL, we got to earn our money. It's not guaranteed, which a lot of other professional sports leagues are. I digress. But the one thing that you brought up too is you're setting up or you've been working on something where it talks about relationships, and you mentioned it 2 questions ago, and I want to go back to it because I always say, like, Coach Rule was all about like level 4 mastery. Like, you know what your job and your work is so much that you can teach it, you can think about it, whether you're tired, you can, right? You're a master, level 4 mastery, right? So I always say, like, guys, we got to jump to level 4 relationship status right away. We need to be going out to dinners. We need to be going on vacations together. We need to be the first guys out on the field together, going over the practice script. We need to be the first guys in the weight room together. Like, that has major effect on the room, overall mood when times are tough. That has major effect on the team, and it can ripple out when you have a great position group that you're responsible for. There's a ripple effect to that. So I digress. But I always say level 4 relationship status. We got to get in right away because you may only be together for a week, a day, maybe 6 months. I was in Carolina with 3 years with 2 tight ends for those 3 years. That was all 3 of us were together for 3, and that is it. That's about as good as you're going to get in this league. So what's your message to young people when it comes to relationships? Not, intimate, but when it comes to in the workplace, like, it's tough in football. I'll just say young people in football, like these guys that are on their phones and they're influencers and all this stuff is great, make money. But like, these are prime years, and these are prime years to build relationships. And what I'm concerned is there's not enough time being a college student or being a pro football player instead of being an entity and some sort of cash cow.
Right. Well, we're going to go down this rabbit hole. This is a good one because this is one that I'm very concerned about because I've been speaking for so many years and I've seen the difference in personality changes. Social media and technology has destroyed younger people's abilities to be able to socialize easily face to face. And in fact, within the last year, I've had some young people saying, how do I start a conversation? And that just breaks my heart because we never would have thought about that. And there's been some very interesting studies that are showing the years that we went from flip phones to smartphones, the years that young people could easily access social media, then the TikTok coming in, all of these things coming in, and how they became so addicted to these social media platforms and getting their social media presence out there, that they're so busy looking at this and doing this that they're not relating face to face and they can't talk to people. Don't be afraid to talk to people. And it could just be a simple thing of saying, where did you grow up? How about that weather today? Or, hey, did you see that game this weekend? And you never know where it's going to open. And I love, my favorite story is being, I'm pathologically social. My husband accuses me of that, but you met Jeff. He's just as bad as I am, but he thinks I'm worse. But I talk to everybody because you don't know who is next to you. So I was in the TSA pre-check line at Charlotte. And I turn around to this guy and look up at him. Everybody's taller than me. And I said, this gets really old after a while, doesn't it? And luckily, he was as open as I am. And the two of us just started talking, having a nice, easy conversation. We get out on the other side of the pre-check and we step off to the side to just continue a conversation. Turns out his name is Dave Sanderson. He was the last passenger off of the plane that Sully landed on the Hudson River.
Oh my goodness.
And he made it a point to be the last person. He was sitting in row 15 in the middle of the plane. And when people started getting off, he said to himself, my mama always told me if I did the right thing, God would look out for me. And so Sully went off after him. But by the time Dave got to exit the plane, the wing was full and he had to dive into the Hudson. 10 degrees that day. Wallet floats down to the bottom of the Hudson. His Mount Blanc pen, they found both of them. But he has the most remarkable story. And we have become good friends. We talked a couple weeks ago, and he is speaking very successfully on leadership and all the things that he learned from that experience. So my message to all of you is talk to people around, be open, have an open heart. I spent 20 minutes on the phone. We have a couple properties in the Brewerytown section in Philadelphia, and we were running an ad for someone to move in with my son, actually, and he works during the day and couldn't take the calls. This 56-year-old man called. He wanted to move in with his girlfriend and 5 kids. He misread the ad. Now, I could have just hung up on him, but we talked for 20 minutes. And he shared about how he was living in the Kensington section in this house that was falling down around him. And how every time he goes out the door, he literally looks both ways to make sure that he's not going to get shot. I learned so much from this man. I gained a whole different perspective and a whole different appreciation of my life too. So it doesn't matter if it's the CEO of a corporation or the person that's cleaning a bathroom, whatever, talk to people because you learn so much from them and you become a more compassionate person as a result of it.
No doubt about it. What it does for you ends up doing more for them, especially if you're in a place of giving, whether your time, your knowledge, your finances, whatever it is. That's the best dopamine hit in the world. I don't care what anybody says. And I use the bar a lot, for example, on here because I like to have drinks. I like to have a good time. I like to be social. When I meet somebody new, or I meet someone who's, very successful and I never met them before. And now we're friends. And then we have this whole, and then we're going on vacation together. We're doing this. That dopamine hit is greater than anything phone can create, any drug can create, any alcohol can create, because that camaraderie and that passion and how you met, and then what it compounds off of that, you're friends with their friends. The amount of times that's happened for me, say I'll go out, I come back to the house, I'm telling everyone all about it. That's the great, to me, and I know it's a side note, and I pull a lot of things back to there. Drink responsibly, but it's amazing the power of people. It's not the phone. It's not
Human beings were built to be social creatures.
Yeah.
We depend on one another. We, to survive, and they find that there are areas in the world. I've developed another new program on wellness, wellness in the workplace to perform well. And so I'm talking about the holistic approach to wellness. And what they look at what they call the blue zones, and these are societies in the world where people live longer than most. And they have certain things in common. They eat a Mediterranean diet. They garden. But the one thing that they have that really makes a difference, they socialize. Socialization is just so important. And you said it, the dopamine rush. And I could tell by your energy and the first time I met you too. You have that love for people and that love for connection.
Yeah,
it's a good
it's
thing.
all about community. And if you know what, I'm in this next phase of my life where I miss the community feel of being in a building, a facility. It's hard. I mean, and everybody talks about you miss the locker room. Yeah, you miss the locker room, but you also miss the person at the gate you say good morning to every day. The person that, you know, in the food line that you're in, the Giants are first class with us, that knows your name and you know their name and you know how their kids are doing. And you ask them the same question every day and you get a laugh out of it. And then the person that cleans your plate after you hand it in and how appreciative they are and how you're like, wow, I have someone cleaning my plate for me. Like, and I play pro football. Like, I think there's something in there. And then you go to the team meeting and you see the person that checks you in and you get to like all those little things that people just think are whatever. But when you're done, whether you make enough money to ever work again or whatever you got to do, it's over. It's done.
Yes.
That hit. And it's sacred ground. You want to be a coach, you got to make a lot of sacrifices. You want to be a player, a lot of sacrifices. It is not a family first environment. Everybody says it is, and it's a lie. You're putting this above your family. So now you're making money, and it is brutal. So that's what I'm trying to replace. And I'm still going to try to play and get back in, but that's what I'm finding. I'm like talking to my wife about it. I'm like, I may need to open a bar restaurant. I may need to create a community environment. I may need to, because I don't know if I want to coach. That time commitment is brutal. And I'm willing to give the time and effort and work hard. I'm not scared of that. But what I'm scared of is my relationship with my kids. And I'm very thankful to the impact my parents have had on my life because they dumped time into me. And it's allowed
That's the greatest gift that you can give, Colin.
That's it. And that's my biggest fear is you can't play catch up. And again, there's also sacrifice. You got to make money. You got to do things. You're not always going to be around for everything your kids do. It's part of life, being an adult. But for the most part, I want to be around. And I think that's the hardest part I struggle with.
You'll never get that time back. There were years when I was doing 80 engagements a year. I was flying 65 flights a year. And I was lucky that my husband, Jeff, worked at home and he was with the boys, and they're not boys anymore. They're adults. But I always checked in with them to see how this was affecting them. And when David, my youngest, was 9 years old, I said, David, if you ever feel like I'm away too much, you let me know and I will cut back. And he said, no, Mom, you're saving lives. It's like, oh, but
Superwoman.
well, it's so wonderful. But you know what? I was always home the whole summer, except I would go out at the end of August. I always blocked off all their plays, all their choirs, or not choirs. They weren't in the choir. Yeah, they did. Well, they all sang together as a class. But I every single special event, I never missed a birthday. I was there for all the holidays. All those things were really important. And they probably enjoyed getting rid of me from time to time because I was the disciplinarian. They're like, Dad, we can eat Oreos.
I think, and even my wife and I, we were long distance for a while. I mean, 6, 7, 8 years, whatever that was in that period. And it's funny, you get back together and you got to adjust because new life, because we would be like weekends and weeks. And I think, a week or a weekend or time periods are like good. It changes things up and keeps you out of routine, being away and travel. And like, that's another thing I struggle with too. I'm dumping everything onto the airwaves today. Like, my whole life has been on the go. And then when I would come home, it would be like, all right, here's what we're doing. All the friends are here, all the family's here. It's tough. And I don't mean it egotistically. I mean it like that has been ingrained in me since 15 years old that, hey, like Colin's back from training camp. He's got 2 days off. Like he's only around for another 2 months. Like he's only around for another 2 days. Let's, do something. It's like, it was always something going on, an event. A lot of us, it's game day. It's, hey, it's your off day. Go eat some pancakes and some eggs and relax. there was always something. And that's where I'm struggling post career is like, I'm gonna find it. And my wife's pregnant. I'm told you Sydney's pregnant.
No,
Yeah.
you're hearing it live or seeing Elaine hear it live.
Yeah,
Oh,
live.
so exciting. Oh,
So
so
I'll have
happy.
plenty of events to look forward to now, but
When does she do?
Definitely something I'm adjusting to. Late July.
You're adjusting to it.
Yeah.
So let me tell you, here's my advice. Because I hear other people deciding, people in their early 30s, my son and his wife talk about this and like we want to, but giving up this lifestyle that you have. In many ways, it's harder to watch it from the outside than it is to actually do it, because nobody can prepare you for how much you love this little baby the minute you see them and hold them in your arms. And it's the love that gets you through the sleepless nights and the diapers and, I just failed my math test. It goes on and on. Or I was drinking and got caught. All the things that you go through as a parent. I mean, I have stories, and so, but it's wonderful. I'm so happy for you. It's a wonderful experience.
We're excited. I think we're ready for that next chapter, and it's been a great journey. And we'll see. Hopefully, I can keep playing. Any football advice? I need that, or you're all off the field.
What's that again?
I said, any football advice? I need that, or you are all off the field advice.
My advice for you with football is if you love it enough, don't give up.
No, never. No.
I mean, it's like my career as a speaker. We don't have the guarantee that we're going to go to work on Monday and get a paycheck on Friday, and we have to hustle for every single gig we get. So it's not easy. And there are times, in fact, I was in a meeting with fellow speakers yesterday, and they were asking, was there ever a period of time when you just wanted to give it all up? And I've been doing this for 28 years. And I actually said, no, I love it too much. So even during COVID, when I was supposed to, the day the MLB shut everything down, I had my bags packed and was flying out to Phoenix the next morning to work with the Texas Rangers for their spring training. And my whole schedule just totally erased everything that I work for. But you do what you do if you love it. And that's why I say to you, Colin, don't give up, because you never know. You're now saying you're a free agent. Who will pick you up and where that could lead? It could lead to a longer term relationship with a team that you really enjoy being with. And,
We'll see you on the next episode of the Elaine and Colin show. Elaine, I appreciate you coming on. We talked a bunch today. We could do this for hours. I'd love to have you back on.
Anytime.
Yeah, you're the best. Well, thank you. Enjoy a little D-Town. We're going to get together for a cup of coffee.
I can't wait to see you in person.
My favorite breakfast place
is
Cross Keys.
Oh, cool. I had, what, for some reason, my mind went right there, and I don't know why, and I didn't even know that. But
it's the best. I love it.
And it's 5 minutes from my house.
I know it is. That's why I said it. 30 minutes out of the airport.
It's
Thanks,
great.
Elaine.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be with you.